Welcome. With a week to go until the UK's European Union referendum, we're receiving the breaking headlines of the latest Survation opinion poll results on the referendum undertaken for IG. There's been a 7-point shift into the Leave camp since the last poll 3 weeks ago, with Leave now on 45, with the other big move showing that there are now less undecideds at 13%. Remain has shrunk 2 percentage points. Taking out the undecideds and spreading the poll across Leave and Remain, the spread has now shifted 6 percentage points to a majority of Leave at 52 to 48 Remain. Survation also asked, if the poll was today, the so-called squeeze question, how would you vote? And the spread there was a big shift in this too. This time came in at 51 to 49 in favour of Leave. Last time this was 55 to 45, so to Remain. Today's poll also has results from another series of questions asking people to prioritise, in order of importance, issues relating to the economy, immigration, sovereignty, public services, the UK's influence on the public stage, security and defence, and justice and human rights. Of these issues, the top 4 were the economy and immigration, then sovereignty and public services, which includes the NHS. The other areas were relatively low down, so are not included here on this graphic. As for the IG binary, this now shows 58% for Remain, with 42% in the Leave camp. This is a huge move from 81% for Remain against 19% for Leave at the time of the last Survation poll on the 25th of May. Well, Damian, Lyons, Lowe, CEO and founder of Survation, joins us now with some more analysis to make some sense of what we've seen. From anybody looking at this from outside, it's clear that there has been this big shift, and now a majority in some of these polls here for a Leave vote. Yeah,
so our telephone polling has been pretty consistent in terms of its trend. It's been previous to this, it's been really quite steady. There's not been much volatility in there. And the last time we worked for you was the 25th of May, publication date. And it was really before the campaigns had really started proper. So since the 25th of May, we've had mainstream TV events, debates, events, discussions, headlines. We've had the campaign proper. And here today we have the story of the campaign, and I think some of the internals in this poll are very interesting.
This was carried out yesterday, wasn't it, between the hours of like 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. last night, is that right?
That's right. So what's nice about the timing is that we have the sort of draft budget that the Chancellor spoke of, where he talked about tax rises in the event of a Brexit. That was front page news most of the day and on broadcasters, so most of the people, if they were paying attention at all, would have had the opportunity to see some of those headlines. So those are in these figures.
What do you make of the other question that came through about the areas where there was a priority of concern, immigration and the economy coming out on top, but also in amongst the top 4 as well, we also had the NHS within the public services business, and also sovereignty. But interestingly enough, other areas, defence wasn't on there. Well, it was, but it was very low down. Security, very low down. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that particular set of questions?
Well, we're hearing very little about defence, and we're hearing a lot about the economy and a lot about immigration. And we gave people 10 things to choose from, so 8 policy options plus a don't know, plus none of these something else. And amongst Remainers, 39% of them picked as the top choice that the British economy was by far the most important, 39% out of 10 options. But amongst Leavers, people who will vote to leave, 41% said immigration. Only 7% of Leavers said the economy, and only 4% of Remainers said immigration. So we're seeing a bifurcation of 2 issues amongst the 2 voter groups.
This is really interesting, the granular analysis of this. I also as well have drawn as well to the Conservative to Labour split as well, in the way that the shift has gone within the political allegiance.
Yeah, so there's some really interesting some figures under the hood of the poll. So. Conservative voters, so amongst those who voted Conservative in the 2015 general election, previously, so on the fieldwork 24th of May, our last poll for you, that group split 43 Remain, 42 Leave. We've seen Leavers, Conservative voters in 2015, Leavers are up 7, Remain is down 7. So Conservative votes becoming much less split, 49 to 36 in favour of Leave, from basically being in favour of Remain previously. some really quite surprising figures. People who voted Labour in 2015, 36% of those people now would vote to leave versus only a quarter.
So there's been a big shift into Labour supporters into the Leave camp. How about the age group split?
Yeah, so perhaps the most stark figure is the age category that Remain really want to get turned out to vote, is the 18 to 34 category. We've seen a big change. So undecided is amongst 18 to 34s, Leave Remain. Undecided is down 7, Remain is down 7, and Leave is up 14, taking from those two pools. So that's a pretty. These are Labour voters, younger people often. That's an important group to miss.
Well, let's bring all this together and ask one final question about the impression you get from this. What is the overarching impression you get from this, bearing in mind the campaign that we've seen so far?
I'm getting the impression that doubling down on fear in terms of campaign strategy isn't working. There was evidence of that back in May when we asked people about the DIY recession, that voting for Leave would create a recession to the action of voting. And only, I think, 10% of Remainers believe that was 10 out of 10 true as something that was going to be the case. Now, that's quite something, and I think it was like 3% of people who were voting to leave thought that would be the case. So we were already seeing lack of cut-through in terms of fear. So I think the Remain campaign needs to stop doubling down on fear and start talking about some hope and optimism for the future within the EU. And I guess the Leave campaign, you'd say keep doing what you're doing because it's working.
Yeah. Damian, we've got to leave it there, but thanks indeed for joining us. Damian Lyons Lowe, the Chief Executive and founder of Survation. Now, as we've been hearing, it's the economy, stupid to coin a phrase, more associated with the Clinton US presidential campaign of 1992. But this is, as we've been hearing, at the very epicentre of the debate alongside immigration. Here's Sarah Walker with more.
Thanks very much, Jerry. Well, with just a week to go now until the UK's referendum on its relationship with the EU, the two sides on the debate focusing in on two major topics, the economy and immigration. Well, Paul Hollingsworth, the UK economist at Capital Economics, joins us now. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's start with this split between the social and the fiscal side. We've seen this in the poll we've done today. Interestingly, immigration and the economy coming out on level pegging.
Yeah, I think that's right. Clearly the two big issues are the economy and immigration, with the Remain side pushing this sort of project fear that the economy would be significantly weaker in the case of a Brexit. But then on the other side, you've got the Leavers who their sort of strong point is immigration. But those clearly are the two big issues for most voters at the moment, and it does seem to be splitting people.
But do you feel that we've seen a switch, because it was very much the social side to begin with, and it's become more and more and more about the fiscal, about the economy?
I think because that is their card to play, if you like, the Remain side, they have been continually banging on about the impact on the economy, and there's been lots of analysis, both looking at the short-term impact and the long-term impact, and that seemed to have resonated with quite a lot of voters. But
have they banged on about it too much to a certain extent?
Possibly. I think most people agree that there would be at least a short-term hit to the economy, and they're right to point out some of the risks. However, warning that there would be extra austerity if we voted to leave, the black hole in the public finances. I mean, it would seem silly to announce a big austerity package in an emergency budget this summer before you even knew, firstly, what sort of relationship we would have, because that will ultimately determine the economy in the long run, but also looking at the impact of a Brexit on the economy. It could be that it's very bad, but it might not be as bad as people think. So if you all of a sudden whack a load of austerity on the economy, then that could potentially make things even worse. So I think there is a risk that they have gone a bit too far in pushing the sort of fear-mongering side of things.
And there always does seem to be that other argument anyway. We had David Cameron saying that Remain would create an oomph to the economy, and then you've got Boris Johnson saying actually you get a bigger boost because you could go global with your trade deals. So there are both sides really fighting out on this.
Yeah, I think it really depends on whether you're looking at the short term or the long term. So there seems to be quite a consensus now that there would be a short term hit to the economy, thinking about the sort of first year or two. Even people that advocate a Brexit would acknowledge that there would be a short-term hit to the economy. The disagreements really come in terms of the long term. So when Cameron's saying that there would be a boost in the near term, that's more a sort of post-referendum rebound in activity. So all of that investment that might have been put on hold over recent months, we might see that being caught back up again in the third and fourth quarters of this year. But people are a bit more split about the long-term impact on the economy, partly because it completely depends on the sort of relationship that's negotiated. It's so unknown.
It is so unknown and unpredictable, and that's kind of what we've been seeing reflected then in the markets because of that unpredictability and that unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the sort of future relationship that we do forge depends as well on the political situation in the UK. So clearly, if David Cameron stayed on as Prime Minister, he said that he won't resign. Some people have said that he might not have any choice. But assuming that he does stay on, then presumably he'd want to go for more of a Brexit light option, if you like. So a Norway-style European Economic Area agreement, and that would, to some extent, replicate the current EU membership as close as possible, while still fulfilling the will of the public to leave. But clearly, if it was a bigger vote to leave and there was a clear mandate for a harder Brexit, if you like, then we might see more of an extreme exit package whereby we did leave the single market, stricter immigration controls, and so forth. So I think the domestic political situation could have a big bearing on the future.
Just finally, the impact on the markets, as we've seen, in particular the pound. We've seen it drop off against the dollar over the last few weeks. What do you think we're going to be seeing over the next week and the week following it?
So I think if we continue to see a bit of a shift in the polls over the next week towards leave, then clearly we might see some of the depreciation in sterling that people expect actually happen before the vote itself. But clearly, if we do leave, then that would be still a shock to the markets. And so I would expect some sterling depreciation. How much it does fall is anyone's guess, but I think most people would suggest that somewhere between a 10 and 20% fall against the dollar is quite likely. Against the euro, it's a little bit more complicated because clearly a Brexit would have significant implications for the rest of Europe as well. So we might not see as big a fall against the euro, but I imagine that we would see quite a significant sterling depreciation. Perhaps that might just be an initial shock, and then it might get recouped in time as and when the new relationship and the negotiations became clear. But clearly, over the next few weeks, markets are in for a bumpy ride.
They are indeed. Thanks very much, Paul Hollingsworth there from Capital Economics. That's it from us here. Jerry, back to you.
Thanks very much indeed. Sarah, yes, let's just catch up now with some more detail about some of the IG tradable parts of the platform that would be most of interest here. And we're talking here really about the IG binary. Let's look first of all at the latest release and the IG barometer, which shows now that there's a big move down towards the leave, but it's not actually this. You can see here it still has a majority of 58% remain to 42% leave, and this is based on our binary, and the binary chart that we've got, a daily chart I think we can bring up to show the big shift that we've seen recently in this. And for more explanation about what's going on here, let's introduce our next guest now, Matt Brief, Head of Dealing here at IG. Matt's been an amazing a move in this chart. Explain what's been going on.
Well, it's been a fantastic couple of weeks for leave, as I'm sure you've heard. The poll came in, as a lot of polls are showing now, that leave is actually ahead. And it's just becoming too close to call this one. We've had a lot of clients come in the last few weeks, especially the last few days, and probably a lot more this afternoon when our poll gets released, that are back in leave. They're speculating to make profits if they think that we're going to leave. They're hedging their equity portfolio. We've even had some, hedging they're worried about their house price and they're hedging that. So our clients still think on balance we're going to remain in the EU, but it's becoming too close to call, and it's been an absolutely fantastic couple of weeks for the leave campaign.
And this binary, I think, has been the most successful binary ever.
It's by far the most popular one we've done, and we'd still expect probably to see almost double the business on the night. We quote it in running 24 hours a day, just like we quote the FTSE 100 and cable 24-hour days as results come in. Our clients see that is really important when it comes to risk management, that they can actually open and close their positions anytime they want. It's our most popular binary we've ever seen, and yet at the moment the flow is going towards leave, but to stress, remain is still favourite. Overall, our clients still think that the economy and the status quo will triumph on June the 23rd, but it is becoming increasingly, as I said, too close to call.
Yes, and just to recap, this 24-hour binary, it goes right the way through the election. When does it close out? When would it finish?
We won't close it until we actually close all the positions on it. So we won't turn off our market until it's over. We won't turn off our market until the result is known. We won't turn it off until the official result is known. So it'll be tradable all through the night on Thursday night, Friday morning.
Okay, all right, Matt, thanks so much indeed. So the most successful binary we've ever been running, this is on the IG platform. You can get it through the front page of the trading platform, go into the politics part of the platform, and you can open up a whole long list of the binaries we offer, both in and out. You can go long and short on both those, depending on which one you want to go for. But there's also the US election as well. You can get that as well on our politics page on the IG platform. Let's just quickly run through those numbers again that we've had. And also, just to remind you as well, we've had a Bank of England interest rate decision as well today. They're maintaining pretty much everything they've got in the bag. No change in interest rates. It's a 9-0 decision to leave interest rates unchanged. 375 billion is where the asset purchase programme remains as well. But let's go back to those charts that we've had out today showing what's been happening in this latest poll from IG and Survation. Big shift into the Leave camp that we've got there, the undecideds as well, a lot further on down than they were on the 26th of May, the last time we did this poll, and there's been a 7-point shift into the Leave camp, so a big move there into Leave. Let's look at this in terms of the spread without the undecideds, and we've got a 52 to 48 to vote to Leave. So that, you can tell, reflects the move that we've seen, most recent move that we've seen in the binary. So as I say, you can catch up with the binary on our platform, and that's the result of our latest poll, and that's the IG barometer. That's it. You can catch up with a whole range of videos on IG Live. We have a Brexit page as well, where we have some of the latest commentary that we've got from the markets, economists, and also commentators around this EU referendum. We've got a week to go until we are able to go to our local voting polls to place our vote on that EU referendum. And of course, we will be very early on Friday morning getting the temperature of the markets and talking about the direction of trade, not just for the binary, but also, if indeed that's still moving, but also for sterling, and also the early trade on those UK markets which trade 24 hours a day right the way throughout the week.